Ladies and gentlemen,
This is the Dental Up Podcast, brought to you by Keating Dental Arts, a full-service, award-winning dental laboratory. Each week, you'll learn tips and techniques from real-world dentists, bringing you in-depth interviews, motivating stories, current events, and sports. Here's your special host, Bob Brandon.
Hi, this is Bob Brandon, the General Manager of Keating Dental Arts. Today, our guests are Steve Tapie, our Implant Manager at Keating, and Dean Tassey, our CAD/CAM Manager. What we'd like to do for the next half hour or so is let our listeners in on some of the digital tips and techniques we are now utilizing in order to fabricate our high-quality restorations. Good morning, guys.
Hey, Bob, it's nice to be here. Thanks, Bob. Good to be here.
Fantastic. That's good to hear. Yeah, we're this is a good time of year for us. I think patients have got their tax returns back and getting back into their dentist for some nice cosmetic work. Their incomes, they've seen their disposable income increase. The economy's good, and yeah, our lab is tremendously busy. We're very thankful to all our customers across the country for keeping us tremendously busy. So thank you to all our dentists. So my first question is for Dean. We're currently seeing a surge in our monolithic, modeless restorations. What are some of the factors that you attribute to this to?
Well, I think more and more doctors are embracing the digital dentistry. They're either buying or using intraoral scanners, and it's really helping out their practice, and we're there to receive them when they get them.
What are some of the things you're hearing on the phones and communicating with our customers, either via email or texting, that the customers are saying about the patient experience with digital dentistry?
Well, it's definitely nice to have a chairside experience for the doctors and the patients because they can share exactly what they're doing on a screen or a monitor in the operatory. So it's kind of taking away a lot of the mystery and some of the fear, I think, of dentistry for the patients when they can see what's happening live and the doctors can show everything that they're doing.
Absolutely. And on the flip side of that is we can blow up preparations and finish lines, to a very high level of magnification sometimes.
Absolutely.
And we're using that to communicate with customers in which types of parameters or situations are you most commonly communicating with customers about?
Well, I think the area that we most communicate about is margin marking.
Okay.
It can be a little difficult at times to pick out a solid margin on an impression, a typical PVS impression. But with the intraoral scans, like you said, you can blow up the prep to be the size of a 18-inch monitor. It's very easy to see any areas that might give you a problem down the road.
I know you and I look at these scans probably 5 or 6 times a day to determine, okay, where do the burr marks end and where does tooth structure, where is the cementum? Sometimes it's not perfectly smooth. Sometimes, the finish lines, can be a guess, and we're looking at these things under very high magnification. What I want to stress to our listeners is that digital impressioning is not a technique to bypass margin isolation. Margin isolation, what you were taught about isolating a margin either with cord, chemicals, or heat, or with physics and a laser, cannot be bypassed. We do need a nice, clear, well-defined margin to fabricate the types of restorations that you, our customers, will be proud to deliver.
Absolutely. And the thing to remember about the intraoral scanners is they really pick up differences in depth. So
Density?
Depth.
Depth.
So a margin that's well retracted, the scanner is going to pick up that retraction and really make the margin shine. If the retraction is a bit lacking, it'll end up looking a little more washed out than we would generally prefer.
And would you say that changing the camera angle, because the camera is a light source, changing the camera angle can help us determine or better determine where the true finish line is?
Moving the camera around a prep will expose more of the surfaces and highlights and shadows that will really give a better 3D digital representation.
Yeah, and a lot of the software now, it's video based. So, the more data points you're giving the software, the better margin line is going to be determined, and we're going to see. So,
absolutely,
just one static image oftentimes is not enough. It's one of those things. We as a laboratory want to build and fabricate the best restoration for your patients all the time. I mean, nobody here is ever trying to cut a corner or guess, and we want to be the best we can be, and we can if we're getting really nice, clean scans with well-defined margins. Now, with that being said, what are some of the differences in the types of machines and scanners that you're seeing in terms of margins? I know for us it's very easy. Itero, does the data cleanup and margin marking for us, and that's a very simple process.
Right.
Can you discuss some of the different manufacturers and the different workflows for us?
Well, we're beginning to enter kind of the second generation of intraoral scanners. Things like full color scanning are coming out standard. Itero, Trios, the Medit i500, Carestream, they're all color scanners now, which only a couple years ago was more of a luxury than anything else.
Right, and a significant cost upgrade.
Of course. That can really help with margination. The color contrast between tissue and dentin or enamel is very helpful.
Pretty evident, yeah. Absolutely.
So in terms of differences in quality between scanners, you're really seeing kind of a closer gap between the different manufacturers. It's not as transparent or doesn't contrast as much as it did before. Having said that, we do prefer to work with the 3-shape trios. It does have a very high resolution, and margination usually ends up a little bit clearer by the time we get the scan.
And in terms of our workflow, I mean, why don't you tell our listeners, what we do when we receive a case and how we import the file into our different software for actually to fabricate the restoration.
Right. So we receive an STL file either through the online portal or email or through the scanner-specific portal. We bring that into our 3-shape software. It is an unsectioned, uncut upper-lower arch.
We see everything on those.
Yeah. The process begins with margination. We mark the margins as best we can. Usually it's pretty well. Mm-hmm. That isolates the prep from the rest of the arch. From there we go into the cement gap and insertion angle. And after that, the software places a digital model of a crown for the specific tooth number. And we attach that to the margin, adjust our interproximal and occlusal contacts, check excursive, always check excursive. And after that, it's ready for the mill.
Excellent. Now, you touched on a couple of fine points there that we really like to dial in for our customers, particularly our customers that are prescribing the monolithic, modeless restorations. You talked about cement gap, you talked about contact strength and occlusion and excursions. Can you go into those a little bit more and explain the importance of customer feedback on really the first 5 to 10 cases, and then what you do with that information so that we are next for the next 10 and 100 and 1,000 restorations that these parameters are really dialed in?
Typically, the occlusion between the upper and lower arches is set by an individual separate scan. And we can tell if there's any heavy contact, and we can make adjustments between the two arches as necessary. Very rarely is it necessary, but we have the option to if we need to. For modeless, one of the biggest concerns And something that really needs to be dialed down on a doctor-to-doctor basis is the interproximal contacts. Obviously, we don't have a model to double-check after the crown is milled and stained. So that's something that is very critical. We have a specific set of default values that we follow to begin with. And like you said, those first 5 cases, we really try and dial that in. And it can be down to a micron, plus or minus, either way, for various anterior, posterior, or multiple contacts.
Yeah, and that's truly how specific we can get. And we've seen big differences in what a normal person would consider, a negligible gap. But we're talking 10 microns here. And we've seen extreme results from customers being just thrilled that we're decreasing their contact strength by 10 microns.
Right.
And the restorations are just then slipping right into place. It's amazing that 10 microns can really make that much of a difference between a 5-minute insertion and a 10-minute insertion. And then you take those extra 5 minutes and multiply that over 30 patients a week. That's a huge time savings.
Absolutely.
Great. So why don't we next talk about some of the steps we as a laboratory are able to bypass by going modeless, monolithic, and what that means to our customer in terms of cost savings.
Well, obviously, we don't have to worry about pouring up a model. Any distortion that may have occurred in the actual impression taking or with the model pouring, that gets eliminated. And we can really get a case into production within a few minutes once we receive it. This relates to a higher turnaround time, which is good for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've done some monolithic Emax cases where we'll receive a scan at 1 p.m. on a Wednesday, and we'll go straight into Model Builder and then designing the restoration, and we'll be done designing by 1:30. And then it's about 42 minutes in the mill if we can get if we can get that into the queue right away. And we have a shipping cutoff time at 5 p.m. I mean, we've even finished some cases the very same day to get them back to a customer's office on Thursday. And I know that's a tremendous benefit to some of our local customers here, where they'll just drive on over to the lab and pick it up the next day, and they'll have a patient appointment time 9 or 10 a.m. the very next day. So it's fantastic. We really can't cut it down that much for zirconia. Zirconia, we're really on about a 3-day turnaround time. That's our standard for monolithic zirconia. But if we get the scans earlier in the day, I think there's a possibility of even cutting that down to a 2-day turnaround time. Now, what about the materials? I mean, I think we've made some tremendous advances in the materials. And why don't you talk a little bit about our newest, our KDZ Bruxer aesthetic, and what that's done to your daily workload?
Well, the Bruxer aesthetic is certainly the most popular material for the modeless restorations. It is a high translucency zirconia. Light is able to pass through a little bit better than our regular full strength zirconia. It gives a very nice aesthetic effect. We're using a lot with anterior cases, actually, and it's coming out great. The only caveat to that is that it is not as strong as the full strength Bruxer. Roughly about half as strong, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's the old trade-off in dentistry: strength versus aesthetics.
Right.
It's as aesthetics increase, strength generally goes down. But I think this is a very nice happy medium, happy blend between the two.
Right.
What about so you mentioned strength? What about bridges? What types of bridges are we able to produce in this material?
With the aesthetic material, we're pretty limited, actually. We can only do 3-unit bridges with a single pontic, and we cannot have a pontic that's longer than 10 millimeters.
Yeah.
So that essentially rules out molar pontics.
Yeah. We generally follow the guidelines for Emax type restorations, and we're talking premolar size pontics. if we have 2 ponics in a row, we're generally talking a lower anterior bridge, 23 through 26 with 2 ponics. Right. We even though we're in California, we still like to be conservative, and we don't want things breaking any more than you guys do. So, we want to make sure we fabricate a restoration that's going to last a very long time. What about porcelain and the ability to cut back and layer this material? What are your thoughts and opinions on that?
We do it. It's possible, especially for anterior cases. The translucency of the zirconia and the porcelain together gives a very nice result. It works well with lighter stump shades.
Yeah, and for characterized dentition, I mean, we are still talking about basically a monolithic material. So for characterized dentition, where there's a shade gradation between gingival to incisal or occlusal, or if there's tremendous hypocalcification or staining that we need to incorporate, I like to work with the ceramist and use a cutback technique so that we can better match the adjacent dentition on those types of cases. It's also nice in cases where we're kind of filling out the buccal corridor and creating a wider smile for a patient that's missing a tooth. We can cut back and add to buccal surfaces only, to where everything in function is going to be the zirconia and the core material. So you have high strength where you need it most, but then we can also jazz it up and make it a little bit more aesthetic in the aesthetic zone. So that's good. So getting back to 3Shape and the workflow, why don't we talk a little bit about how easy it is for us to move forward? Because what I'd like to do is kind of entice our listeners with a very nice 3Shape offer here.
Well, since Trios is made by 3Shape and we use the 3Shape design software, the scans get sent directly into the software that we're using.
So no conversions, right?
No conversions. There's no translation. It gets plugged in direct to the system.
What does that mean in terms of final accuracy?
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
It helps a lot, too, with showing doctors any concerns that we might have or for design approval, because they are connected through the 3Shape Communicate portal. So any design that we do, we can send back to them, and they can manipulate in three-dimensional space. It's not just a 2D screenshot that we would have to send to other doctors with other scanners.
Yeah. So that's excellent, and I think that most of our current customers that have purchased the 3Shape are tremendously happy. And what I'd like to do now is offer the rest of our listeners that currently own a 3Shape and are not Keating customers. What I'd like you guys to do is we're gonna make a tooth-borne restoration for you free of charge. So go to your 3Shape Communicate dashboard. Click Keating Dental Arts, add us as one of your favorite laboratories. We will accept that invitation immediately. You send us, during the month of April, send us a restoration. Your first one's on us, and we're gonna prove to you exactly what Dean has mentioned. We're gonna prove to you that these restorations are gonna fit like a glove, and your material of choice, whether it's our high strength zirconia or our high translucent zirconia, which we call KDZ Brux or aesthetic, or even an Emax. Well, the first one's on us, and I want to prove to you guys how we do things so well here digitally. So thank you, Dean. Now, Steve, I'm sorry to neglect you here.
That's right.
Let's talk a little bit about the digital implant workflow and scan bodies. Can you walk us through how a customer sends us a digital impression for an implant case, please?
It is almost identical as Dean had described. We get the scan. It's going to have the scan body on it, whether it be, we pretty much accept all different kinds of scan bodies. Of course, the authentic products, whether it be Straumann, Nobel, with their Elos or their Atlantis or the Astra scan bodies. And we get the order in, and if they use the authentic parts, we can basically get the model going and the abutment going before a model's even printed. So we can design those that we do like. If we want authentic parts, whether it be a Straumann or Nobel, we like using authentic scan bodies. We can go around that if you wanted to use a different type of an abutment and an authentic scan body, but we have to print a model first so we can utilize our desktop scanner here in the lab to do that. But yeah, it's seamless. Like Dean was saying, as long as we get a clean scan, not a lot of scatter, a clean scan of the scan body, it comes out really nice. And of course, we'll contact you if we don't have enough information. Whether sometimes we have some tissue or the scan bodies. I've talked to a couple of our customers that the scan bodies were too tall and they weren't able to scan the full scan body, and so we was like, well, we need to get a shorter one. So it's a lot of communication. At first, I was a little hesitant on this implant digital model thing, but now we're into the hundreds, if not thousands, and the remake percentage on these digital implant cases are next to nothing.
Yeah, it's extremely low. I mean,
Yes.
again, because we're cutting out essentially, what I've always thought were the two single largest sources of error. Number one, on the clinician side, was the impression taking procedure, and conversely on our side is pouring the impression. So, it just eliminates the two largest sources of error and therefore improves the accuracy.
That is true. Yeah, it was actually the orientation was our biggest issue that we had with the traditional impressions per se, and we got some people, and I've been assembling them myself for years now, and it's
Under a microscope.
Under a microscope, of course, and it's the digital ones are turning out really nice as long as we get a good clean scan. And then the other big important thing to mention is that we need the information to be correct on the work ticket that is submitted.
Absolutely.
We've gotten the oral surgeon may even do the scan, but if we don't get the information, and for example, let's just say it's a Nobel active and they write down replace, well, the scan bodies are similar. We cannot tell at the laboratory if it's an active and or replace scan body. So the correct information is key. We've come across a few cases to where the information was incorrect, and then our clients are wondering why the abutment doesn't fit.
Yeah,
So,
it's a different interface.
yeah, so and it's always good to do radiograph to make sure that the scan body is fully seated. Sometimes you have some tissue impingement, and it's seamless. It's like I said, I was a little nervous at first, but now we've done so many, and the results are fantastic.
Yeah, and as long as accurate information is conveyed to us, either electronically or on a lab slip for a regular analog case, it's really so important, again, because we can only do the job based on the information we're receiving. So talk about some of the different types and methods of materials, screw retained versus, cement retained, monolithic, layered, our model making procedure. Now that we're making our implant models here ourselves, it's a lot of fun. Improves turnaround time and reduced costs as well. Go ahead and kind of run with that for a little bit.
Yeah, once we get the abutment fabricated, depending on the product that our customers want to select, whether it be the Bruxer Static Emax, we can pretty much do anything. There isn't anything contraindicated as far as what we cannot do here. I do like to stay. Some of our customers like to do the Bruxer aesthetic in the anterior on a titanium abutment. We're having kind of some issues with show through, so we like to maybe go with our KDZ Ultra, which this helps block out, of course, the abutment, or a traditional PFM crown is going to block out that abutment really, really well too. The screw retain and the cement retain, I was talking to one of our customers this morning, and he had questions like, how many are we doing now, screw retain? And I said it's actually becoming more than 50% are becoming screw retained. So
especially single unit posteriors.
Single unit posteriors. Yeah. And now, I know we're going to touch on this later, is with our angulated screw channels abutments that we got going now with the different companies. Nobel has their ASC. We have our Keating custom abutment has the angulated screw channel. Atlantis has 2 of their platforms for the angulated. I'm sure they're going to come out with more. And this is going to bring back the access hole to 20-25 degrees to where we can get that in a desirable location, so we can make it screw retained, and to where before it was coming out the facial, we would just have to make it a cement on. So screw retain is becoming more prevalent, and it's going to become a lot more popular in the future. It's retrievable, and it's a great restoration. We just have to make sure that our customers or our new clients that we get have the driver, that it is a different driver, so we have the correct driver for that to bring this screw back.
And
it's a different
Are you talking about a driver tip?
It's
and
the
torque
driver
rating.
It's a driver tip. The torque rating is usually the same, but it is the driver tip. It looks like an acorn at the end at the top of it. So they're all configured the same. They look the same, but they are a little different from Strawman to Nobel. They're slightly different. So you just want to make sure you have the correct driver. We could always help you out if you have some hard time finding which ones go to what.
Yeah, absolutely. We have contacts with all the manufacturers. If any of our customers need help with that, please feel free to reach out to us. We'll definitely help you out. Yeah, the screw retain, particularly with angle correction, it's really, I think it's increasing the numbers on screw retain restorations tremendously. And we don't like to go with angle correction. We couldn't go with angle correction on a lot of these cases as recently as 5 years ago. And I think our hope with, some of the next things that we're going to get into with, our wax printer with surgical guides, hopefully it'll help improve that problem as well. I want to talk about some of the other systems and manufacturers that are out there. I think we've been promoting Trios and 3Shape a lot, but please don't take that as a comment that we refuse scans from anybody else. We don't. As a laboratory, we're there to support everybody. Dean, can you talk about some of the other systems that we're getting cases from currently?
After Trios, I would say our next most popular intraoral scanner is iTero. We get probably about 20 cases a day, on an average day, which is great. iTero does have color scanning, and they have a fantastic support system. If there's any issues initially with the scan, they'll reach out to the doctor and to us at the same time. And we can all work together to kind of troubleshoot, hopefully without rescanning, but sometimes it is necessary. We get some 3M. We have a couple doctors that are having very good results with 3M. The scanner is a little bit older, but the 3D model that it produces is still up to par. I'd say that the biggest disadvantage to 3M, however, is that it does require a spray. You have to spray the prep site.
Are we currently making our models here for iTero and 3M scans?
Yes, we are. We're making all our models here with the carbon printer that we have. CareStream is really taking off. We've seen a number of new doctors move over to CareStream. That system is really good because the doctor can mark the margin and we can view it and compare that to our own margin marking and make adjustments as needed.
And I think I've heard that's a very cost-effective system as well.
It is. And we just recently, within the last couple of months, started getting scans from the Medit i500, which is, I think, one of the newest ones on the market. It was introduced last year at Lab Day. So.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, and we have a Medit scanner and the software that goes along with that. ExoCAD is very powerful stuff. I'm very excited anytime there's more competition in the marketplace. The different companies and manufacturers will learn, from their counterparts as well. So I'm excited for Medit to enter this marketplace here in the United States. And again, as a laboratory, we fully understand that no single machine is perfectly suited for every office. And there are many factors that go into our customers' buying decision. And then we're more than happy to work with and support all of our manufacturers and our partners. And again, we're not endorsing one system. Even though we've made the offer to 3Shape and Trios customers this month, rest assured we'll be doing something similar down the road for our other manufacturers and vendors. Again, it's just right now for us and our internal lab workflow, 3Shape is the most accurate and the easiest in terms of workflow, which is why we're making this offer at this time specific to the 3Shape Trios customers. Steve, we've been, not to switch gears here, but we've been mentioning adding surgical guides for some time, and with our new carbon printer coming on board, can you tell our listeners what we plan to offer next?
Yeah, we have a great offer coming up. So now we're going to start doing more and more surgical guides because it's obviously it's going to help the patient, our customers, and then it's a lot easier working on a case that's planned through a surgical guide. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a surgical guide for an introductory price of $249, and to our customers and first-time listeners out there, it's going to be $199. So that's going to be for our guided single tooth, fully guided,
Yeah.
and then we're working on the fully guided with no bell clinician.
It's the old carpenter's saying, measure twice and cut once.
Yeah, it's amazing what we see here in the laboratory, but you can definitely tell when they are a guided implant. It's they're perfectly placed, and it makes it easier for everybody all the way around.
I think the final restoration comes out a lot better.
It does.
The patient's trips back to the restorative dentist are fewer. We see fewer problems with open embrasures and food impaction. We're able to create a better abutment and restoration on these cases that are planned instead of free-handed. But again, thank you. So what do our customers need to send us to get one of these guides?
They could either send us their cone beam scan. We could do it with a scan for the guided surgery, and we could print the models here, and I'll have the 2mm pilot hole placed in an ideal location that you wish to put it into that site, or of course a traditional impression, and we can just go about it with that way too.
Yeah, that's a fantastic offer. Again, that's $199 for a surgical guide, and that's going to be our initial offer for our customers. Again, I think the going rate I've heard from some of our implant vendor partners, reps, is in the high $200 to $300 for these. So again, we're very excited for this new technology that we're adding here into our laboratory, and we're excited to help our customers in new ways to achieve better results. Thank you again. Mm-hmm. Looks like we're going to need some more CAD/CAM technicians, though, with some implant knowledge.
Yes, we are.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've always thought guided surgery is the gold standard, and these resin-based printers, again, we have a carbon. We're set to take delivery of our second machine here in the next couple months. But again, just what I want to stress to our customers is don't let cost be the barrier to providing the highest level of care. Take the time to plan a case, do it right, and achieve a predictable outcome every time. The technology is out there, and it's not just offered by us. You can get it from your lab. You can get it directly from an implant manufacturer, or even now there's numerous third-party vendors that offer planning services and guide production. I'm happy that Keating Dental Arts is taking this next step and able to offer our customers another tool in their tool belt. So we've talked about implants. I think our one last topic, though, is going to be removables. And Dean, we have some, again, with the carbon and materials that are coming out and available. What are some of the things that you and your team, in conjunction with Jim and his team, are going to be offering regarding removable appliances?
Well, coming up in the hopefully not too distant future, we will be releasing a digital denture. That is a denture that is designed in 3-shape and then printed on the carbon. So the dentition and the gingiva are printed in whatever corresponding shade and color needs to be, and then they're bonded together and glazed here in the lab. The results so far with the trial samples have been turning out great. The aesthetics are very impressive, and we're hoping that it's going to be a very good, affordable alternative.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're hoping to offer an economy denture, again, right around the $200 mark. So we're thinking that with the technology and the investment that Keating Dental Arts and Sean has made is going to help us treat more patients. What about any other types of removable appliances that we're considering?
Well, after we release the digital dentures, we do hope to go to night guards. having a modeless night guard would be very fast and convenient.
Yeah.
And beyond that, having a digital copy of the design would mean reprinting or making a replacement very easy and very quick.
Sure. And that holds true for full arch dentures as well.
Absolutely.
Yep. Excellent. So, again, in doing our research, we looked at, what did we look at? I mean, we looked at 2 or 3 different systems that were milling dentures. And, the subtracted method of fabrication was, to me personally, and I don't know your opinion, I probably never asked you, but to me personally, it wasn't a very attractive or cost-effective option. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree. We tried, at least 3 different versions and different pucks, and we just never got the really good, consistent results that we wanted to put out there.
Yeah, and time. Why don't you speak to, how long it takes to mill one of the bases or a set of teeth versus the speed of which printing can accomplish the task.
Right. So milling took hours and hours.
For one arch, right?
Yeah, for one arch. And if you multiply that over however many cases we would hope to have going into full production, it just wasn't feasible. Yeah. The nice thing about printing is the printing time is determined by the height of the plate. So you can have multiple arches, and it's not going to change the overall printing time. Yeah.
We went with the additive solution, again, because of the partnership with Carbon. I mean, our friends up in Northern California, the Silicon Valley, they have made tremendous investments into, engineering, technology, and materials, and we can't thank them enough. I mean, I know that the dental industry is a relatively new foray for their business model, but I think of all the companies that we looked at, I mean, Carbon was, they presented the best total package in terms of, materials, support, and cost effectiveness. I mean, anytime a manufacturer or vendor partner can offer us as a laboratory a cost effective solution, we can then pass those savings on to our customers, and in that respect, everybody wins. Guys, as we wrap up here, is there anything that we missed? Is there anything that we encounter on the lab floor that we have failed to talk about?
There's one thing I wanted to mention, that with a promotion that we've given a few out today, there is going to be another one for our Keating custom abutment, which we had launched about almost a year ago.
Oh, thank you.
And I think that we've had fantastic results. Our customers love them. They come with an extra clinical screw, and the price, starting price, is $399 for an abutment and crown. But what we're going to do now is, if you would like, these are going to be for our customers out there and the new customers out there. If you just give us a call up and we just get some information from you, we would like to send you out a free scan body. So just call Keating. You can find our phone number, and 800-433-9833. We can get some information from you, find out what kind of scan body you would like, and we can send you out one for free.
Awesome. Thank you. I did forget about that. Yeah, I'm very excited about the Keating custom abutments. We've been doing some of those cases for my own father, who's in practice in Huntington Beach, and yeah, he loves them, and he loves the $100 savings on each case as well. So thank you, Steve. And again, please take us up on these exciting offers. Anybody that's listening, anybody that has a 3-shape Trios, anybody that wants to send us a digital implant case, we will help you out. That's what we're here for. So thank you for joining us for another episode of the Dental Up Podcast. Again, if you need any specific information or clarification on anything that was said today, please don't hesitate. Reach out to us at 800-433-9833 or visit us on the web at www.keatingdentalarts.com. Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us on the Dental Up Podcast Show this week. Make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or search the Dental Up Podcast on iTunes for our weekly feed. Don't forget to visit KeatingDentalArts.com/promo for exclusive offers. Keating Dental Arts is a full-service dental laboratory, and we're nationwide. We'd love for you to send us a case so we can show you the Keating difference. If you dig what you heard, please leave a review on iTunes, and we'll be back next week.